I've just gotten home from the south of France, and today I thought it would be fun to share some of my best deli salad recipes with you. Today we're going to be using quite a bit of mayo. If you can't make your own, store-bought is fine. Just make sure it's a good mayo. How bad can that be? I'll take any excuse I can to put on my denim shirt and Ina wig and make some recipes. So today we are making 6 of Ina Garten's top deli salad recipes. So we're gonna be making some tarragon potato salad, a roasted shrimp salad, and a chicken salad Veronique, some pasta, pesto, and peas, as well as a tomato feta pasta salad and a fresh corn salad. So let's get started. After I make these recipes, I'm also gonna taste test them and rate them for you as well. Who doesn't love a good chicken salad? We are making chicken salad Veronique, which I can't really find much about online. All I can tell is that this particular kind of chicken salad has grapes. So here we go. In the original recipe, it calls for some roasted chicken breast. Now, I've actually done this method before with different Ina Garten recipes, but I did take a shortcut this time, and I just got some already cooked rotisserie chicken breast from the grocery store. So that step is already done. We're gonna use some Duke's mayo, salt, pepper, need about a cup of green grapes, some celery, which we're gonna dice up, and some tarragon. I'm gonna go ahead and make the dressing first, so I'll just mince up my tarragon here. I'm gonna add half a cup of mayo, some salt and pepper. And give this a stir. Okay, so I'm thinking I won't necessarily need all of this chicken. I just want kind of the equivalent of 2 large chicken breasts on the bone, so that's probably about right, but I'm just gonna cut this into bite-sized pieces and add it to the dressing. All right, and then I always like to dice celery small, so I usually cut it lengthwise before I dice it up, but that is obviously your preference, you do you. Lastly is the grapes, so I'm just gonna go ahead and have those and add them into the bowl. I'm kind of leery about this recipe because I feel like there's not enough dressing for all of the ingredients, but we'll see here. I don't know, what do you think? I think I'm gonna add a little bit more mayo to this, maybe whisked up with a little bit of milk. That's normally how I do my chicken salad, just to kind of thin out the dressing a little bit. Just because I want it to be a little bit creamier when I put it on bread so it kind of stays together. So let me do that and I'll taste it, and then we're gonna let it sit in the fridge for a little bit before we do a final taste test. All right, so we are making Ina's fresh corn salad. So this has minimal ingredients, but it sounds really good. I've got 5 ears of corn here. This is just sweet corn that I shucked, and I went ahead and washed it, and then I just boiled it for about 3 minutes just to get some of the starches out. I've got some red onion. Of course, we have to have our good olive oil, some basil. I've got some pepper, some salt, and some cider vinegar. All right, so we need to cut the corn off the cobs. The easiest way to do that is to get a big bowl here, and then you take a smaller bowl and put it upside down in the bottom. I would say this is also the most mess-free way to do it because the corn will just fall into the bowl. So then basically you just take a sharp knife and cut the corn kernels off of the cob, and they just fall right into the bowl. If you try to do this just on a cutting board, which I've definitely tried before, it makes a huge mess and corn flies everywhere. So definitely use this particular method. All right, so we've got our corn all off the cobs. I'm gonna go ahead and set that aside. It calls for half a cup of red onion. I've got this piece of onion that I had in the refrigerator, so I'm just gonna dice this up and see if I think that's enough. Okay, so I think this is enough, so we'll just use that. And then we need half a cup of fresh basil. In order to julienne the basil, I don't do it very neatly, so I just roll up the basil leaves and then chop it thinly. And you get just thin little ribbons like that. I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and the recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of olive oil, but I'm just gonna cut that in half just to kind of cut down on the calories a little bit. All right, we're gonna add half a teaspoon of salt and then some black pepper. Just stir this up. So the fresh corn salad is done. We're gonna go ahead and put that in the fridge until it's time for the taste test. Okay, so next up is Ina's tarragon potato salad. I'm actually kind of excited about this one because I feel like I've seen it in several of my Barefoot Contessa cookbooks and I've never made it before. So I've got some Yukon Gold potatoes. This is about 2 pounds, anywhere from 6 to 8 potatoes. What I did is I washed these potatoes up and then I put them in a pot with some salted water and I brought them to a boil. I boiled them for about 20-25 minutes until they were tender, and then I kind of wrapped them up in a towel, let them steam a little bit so that the skin would easily peel off. So the potatoes are already cooked. I've got some lemon juice, some good white wine vinegar. Now, you know Ina and her good mayonnaise, so I decided that we would try Duke's for some of the recipes today. I don't normally buy this brand. I typically buy Kraft or Hellmann's, but I know that this is, I think, a Southern brand, so let me know what brand of mayo you guys prefer. I've got salt, pepper, some scallions. I've got a little bit of red onion, and then I've got some fresh dill and some fresh tarragon. So normally for potato salad, or at least when I make potato salad, I normally cube the potatoes, but this specifically says to slice them. So we're gonna go ahead and try that. And then I've got a bowl right here, so I'm just gonna put the warm potatoes in the bowl. So we've got our potatoes in here. Some of them crumbled up, but that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and mince up my herbs and my onion. I wanna make sure, especially for the red onion, that I mince it up pretty fine because that's just my preference. All right, we're gonna add the onion to the potatoes. Okay, so for the tarragon, it is kind of a little bit of a pain because you have to pull the leaves off of the stems, but I usually leave a little bit of the stems in there. It doesn't hurt anything. You can try to take the stem like this and then pull the herbs back the opposite way, and then they sometimes come off a little bit easy. It depends how strong the stems are. Okay, and then I'll just mince up these herbs. And then lastly is just the green onion. So we've got our potatoes, all of our herbs and onions in there. Next, I'm gonna make the dressing. So I like to make the dressing separate because if you kind of put all the dressing ingredients into the potatoes and stir it up, your potatoes are gonna crumble even more than they already will. So I've got 1 cup of mayo. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in the bowl.
Potatoes, 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 potatoes. What salad?
Potato salad.
Cool.
I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and then I'm also gonna measure out 2 tablespoons of white wine vinegar. Some ground pepper. All right, I'm gonna add some salt and whisk this up. And then I'll just pour the dressing over the salad. Okay, and then you just wanna try to stir this up without breaking up the potatoes too much. It will break them up a little bit, and that's obviously okay and can't be avoided, but just try to fold it as best you can. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this a taste. If it needs more salt or pepper, I'll add that. And this does need to be refrigerated before we taste it. So I'm just gonna transfer it to another container and we'll pop it in the fridge. Okay, so we're gonna make Ina's tomato feta pasta salad. So what I've got here is 1/2 pound of fusilli pasta. I chose to use the Kaizen pasta. It's actually a lower carb, lower calorie pasta, so I can link it down below. I ordered it directly from their website. I would say it's pretty comparable to regular pasta. It doesn't taste much different. It does fall apart a little bit easier, but you just have to boil it for less time. So I just boiled this and rinsed it in cold water. We're gonna make the vinaigrette next, but just for the salad ingredients, you need the pasta, some Kalamata olives, 1 pound of feta cheese. I actually just cut this up myself. I like to buy it in big blocks and then cut it up. I just think it's so much more flavorful than buying the crumbles. And then I've got 1 pound of cherry tomatoes and some sun-dried tomatoes. I'm gonna add the feta cheese to the pasta, and then I'll just have these grape tomatoes and add them to the bowl as well. And then you need about 3/4 of a cup of Kalamata olives. These are already pitted, so I'm just gonna go ahead and dice these up a bit. Okay, and then I'm just gonna pull out about 5 or 6 of these sun-dried tomatoes, and we'll dice these up. I'm just gonna toss this gently, and then we'll make the vinaigrette. I've got my little mini food processor here. If you don't have one of these, I highly recommend it. I use it, honestly, probably a little bit more than I do my regular size food processor. It's just so much more convenient. So in here, I've got 5 of the sun-dried tomatoes. I'm gonna add 1 clove of garlic, or the equivalent of 1 clove of garlic. I like using this garlic paste because it is so much easier and it's delicious. 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. Ina would probably not approve of this because it's from Aldi. The recipe calls for 6 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm only gonna do half of that. Need 1 teaspoon of capers, a teaspoon of salt. I'm just gonna use half of that because I feel like the feta is gonna be pretty salty. Pepper. And then since I cut back on the olive oil, I'm just gonna add a few tablespoons of water just to make sure that I have enough liquid in there. Whew. It's a strong dressing. The recipe also calls for some parsley. I'm not sure why it calls for it at the end, but anyway. And then it also calls for a cup of Parmesan. It feels like a lot to me. Like,
whoa, that's a big piece of meat for 2 people, but
a cup of Parmesan, a pound of feta.
it's a very big brisket for 2 people.
Okay, so parsley. Let's add the dressing. Okay, so I've got some grated Parmesan. I'm just gonna put about half a cup in. I thought this bowl would be big enough and it's almost not big enough. I'm gonna find a big container to put this in. We'll stick it in the fridge and then we'll give it a taste. Next up is a roasted shrimp salad. I am very excited to try this. I think I made a shrimp salad before, but it's been a while. So the original recipe has you roast shrimp and let it cool, but I already had cooked shrimp on hand in the freezer. So I went ahead and thawed that out, and I just have that in here. I actually did that yesterday. So I put it in the fridge overnight with a paper towel. I've got some white wine vinegar in this. Well, I dropped a little bit of mayo in there, sorry, but this is 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed orange juice. In here, I've got red onion, chopped dill, and chopped capers. And then in this bowl, I've got a little bit of mayo and some orange zest. I will always mix the dressing up first before I mix the salad ingredients in, just because the dressing will come together better that way. So I'm gonna add my orange juice to the mayo, and then we need 1 tablespoon. Actually, I cut this in half, didn't I? Half a tablespoon of white wine vinegar. I did cut the recipe in half because I only had half of the amount of shrimp. And we're gonna add a little bit of salt, some pepper. Okay, we're gonna put the shrimp in. Just give this a stir. And you can eat this on rolls, or you can also just eat it plain or in a lettuce leaf. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a taste, and I'll stick it in the fridge. Add salt, pepper if I need to, and then we'll do a final taste test later. We are making Ina's pasta, pesto, and peas. We're gonna go ahead and make the pesto first. I've got my food processor here. Now, Ina says that you can get store-bought pesto, but why in the world would we do that when we can painstakingly make our own? Okay, 1/4 cup of pine nuts, 1/4 cup of walnuts, garlic cloves, and I'm just gonna pulse this until everything is kind of chopped into fine pieces. Here I've got 5 cups of fresh basil, which cost me approximately $76 because I live in the middle of nowhere, Iowa. All right, I'm gonna pulse this down a bit. Next, we're gonna add salt and pepper. I've got 1.5 cups of olive oil, and I'm gonna turn the food processor on and just stream this in. It's pretty. 1 cup of Parmesan. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just gonna pulse it a few times to mix in the Parmesan. All right, let's have a little taste. Ooh, that's good. So the pesto is kind of like the base of the dressing for the pasta. So to this is where you could obviously use the store-bought pesto if you wanted, but to this I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, and then this is 10 ounces of frozen chopped spinach that I thawed out yesterday, and I squeezed all of the water out of it. We're gonna add that in there. I'm adding 1.25 cups of mayo. Oh my God, that's a lot of mayo.
Mom,
What?
how do you say Massachusetts?
Say what?
Like the state,
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Where?
I've got a pot of boiling water on the stove, and in here I've got 3/4 of a pound of bow tie pasta, and then underneath I've got 3/4 of a pound of fusilli pasta. So I'm gonna go ahead and cook this. So I cooked the pasta and then I cooled it under cold running water. I added it to a big bowl, and then I'm gonna add 1.5 cups of peas. These are just frozen peas that I soaked in cold water until they were thawed. I'm gonna add 1/2 cup of Parmesan and then some pine nuts. Okay, and then here is our dressing. So I'm gonna add that. Okay, I'm gonna stir this up. So I've got all this combined. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this in the fridge. All right, it's taste test time. I've got all of my salads right here. We're gonna go through them. I'm gonna taste them for you, and I'm going to tell you a rating, like 0 to 10, how much I like it, and would I make it again. First one is the fresh corn salad. So my rating for this one is actually a 10 out of 10. I love it. I would make it again. I would actually probably double it if I made it again, because especially I feel like, I mean, I guess if I was just making it for at home, I would probably keep the same proportions, but if you wanted to take this to a get together, I would definitely double it. I was kind of nervous about the apple cider vinegar, that it would be too tangy, but it actually contrasts really nicely with the sweet corn. So I definitely recommend this one at 10 out of 10. Next up is the tomato feta pasta salad. This is honestly the one that I am the most disappointed with. It's just really dry. I feel like there's way too much pasta, way too many tomatoes, and just not enough vinaigrette. I think if I were to make this again, I would probably not follow this recipe. I would probably find a different pasta salad recipe that had tomatoes and feta in it, and I'm kind of honestly irritated with myself that I wasted a whole pound of feta on this salad. Now that being said, I did try out that Kaizen pasta with this recipe, but honestly, I don't even think regular pasta could have saved it. I would probably give this honestly like a 4 or a 5 out of 10, and I would not make this recipe again. That being said, it's honestly really rare to have an Ina Garten recipe fail, so it's probably only one of a couple that I've ever had fail. Next up is the pasta, pesto, and peas. Okay, this bowl of pasta salad has like 1 bajillion calories in it because of all the oil we put in the pesto, and then once you make the pesto, you mix the pesto with mayo, and then you toss it with Parmesan cheese and pasta. Like, I don't even want to know how many calories are in a serving of this, but it's pretty good. If you're a pesto fan, I definitely would recommend this. I feel like if I was going to make this again, I would probably lighten up the dressing by using a little less pesto, and then maybe use Greek yogurt instead of mayo, just to kind of cut down on the fat and calories. I would definitely recommend adding like some lemon juice to this, or vinegar. Sorry, we've got fireworks going off here. I'm gonna go ahead and give this an 8 out of 10. Would I make it again? Probably not that exact recipe. I would not make it again, although I might kind of make a different version and put my own spin on it. Next up is the chicken salad Veronique. This one I was excited about because I love chicken salad. If I could choose like a favorite lunch food, it would probably be a chicken salad sandwich. I love Panera's chicken salad. I love making it myself at home. It's good, but it is salty. So this recipe calls for 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of salt. I put 1.5 teaspoons of salt in there. I think I could have gotten away with 1/2 to 1 teaspoon. I should have probably went with my gut. I also feel like there wasn't enough dressing to totally cover the chicken. Like, I don't like a dry chicken salad, so I did modify the recipe a little bit because it was so salty. I added some honey to it, and I also added a little bit of extra mayo mixed with some milk, and that's how I kind of got this like creamy texture, but this is not what it would have looked like if I would have followed the recipe exactly. We will eat it, but in terms of chicken salad, I would probably give this a 7 out of 10. If you're gonna make this recipe, cut way back on the salt. Add maybe some milk and a little bit of additional mayo to the dressing so it's not dry. Overall, I think I like probably my version of chicken salad better, which usually has almonds in it and red grapes. I think the Tarragon is a nice kind of change, so I would definitely consider adding that in the future. Okay, next up is the Tarragon potato salad. This one I fear is a bit dry as well, but we'll see. You guys have probably seen me make potato salad here on my channel before. If not, I'll link a video down below. I'm very particular about my potato salad. I first started liking potato salad because of the way that my grandmother makes it. And she actually taught me how to make it. So I feel like when I make it, it tastes almost exactly like hers, and that's the kind of potato salad I'm used to. This is good. I will say, I think that there is not enough dressing and I should have added more mayo or maybe used one less potato. I like the fresh dill and the fresh tarragon in there. I think overall this one's a winner. If I had to rate it, 8 or 9 out of 10, just because I feel like my potato salad is like the pinnacle of 10 out of 10. No, I'm not proud of my potato salad at all, okay? And then we have our shrimp salad. I put this on a little brioche roll because I want to taste it that way. This is a winner. I really like this. I like that the dressing is super light and tangy. I like the fresh dill in it. Like I said, you could either eat it on a roll or you could eat it plain or on lettuce. I would definitely give this a 10 out of 10. I think the flavors are spot on in terms of the dressing. I really like the addition of like the orange juice and the orange zest. I think that's just a little bit different than the traditional lemon juice. If I made this again, which I definitely would, I would probably use higher quality shrimp. The shrimp that I used were just frozen shrimp that I got on sale at the grocery store. And I think for this particular recipe, you definitely need like a really good quality shrimp. And so I think if you got a really good quality shrimp and did the recipe, you know, as written, roasting them, cooling them, I think it would just make it even that much better. Thank you guys so much for coming along with me on today's video. And if you guys want to see how I fed my family on less than $100 with many items not approved by Ina Garten, you can click on this video right here.